All right, well, my name is Jen, and we're just going to go ahead and get started. Like Bree just said, we have a full schedule planned for this evening. So normally we would do a little bit longer introductions of ourselves, but tonight we're going to do short ones. So as I call on you, if you would just share your name, where you live, and in one word, describe your last outdoor experience. So Melissa, you're at the top of my box. So if you'll start.
Melissa Halsey. I live in Chickamauga, Georgia, and failure would describe my last outdoor experience.
No sugarcoating or anything.
Well,
Boom. Well, you only gave us one word. So
Shelby, you're next.
Hi, my name is Shelby Register. I live in Rydell, Georgia, which is near Daresville. And my one word to sum up my last outdoor experience would be fulfilling. So we're just going to swap it to the other end of the spectrum.
Lynn?
So I am Lynn Lewis. I am actually in Aiken, South Carolina, but I'm a native Georgian, and that's one of the reasons I'm involved with this group. And it's kind of two words technically, but I would describe my last outdoor experience as tree planting.
All right, great. Coral?
I'm Coral Minchie. I am on Tybee Island in Georgia. And I would say educational.
All right. Marion, you're up. Oh, you're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, Marion Baker. I live in Perry, Georgia, and I would say my one word would be exhilarating.
Ooh, that sounds exciting. We might have to ask more about that later if we have time. Michelle?
Hi, I'm Michelle Garrett. I live in Decatur, Georgia. And one word to describe my last outdoor experience would be learning.
Good, good. Nina, I don't know. I think you came on right as I was describing, but I think you understand. We're just introducing ourselves a little bit more shortly tonight. And if you could just share your name, where you live, and one word to describe your last outdoor experience.
Nina Stafford, Fayetteville, Georgia, which is just southwest of the airport. My last outdoor experience, well, almost all my outdoor experiences are amazing.
Another good one. Morgan, are you still available?
I'm still here. My name is Morgan Bennett. I live just outside of Gainesville, Georgia, and my last outdoor experience can be described as puppy.
Puppy. Ooh.
Puppy? P-U-P-P-Y?
Yes, P-U-P-P-Y.
Okay.
Thank you. And Crystal.
Hello, my name is Crystal Webb Kyle, and I am from Covington, Georgia. And my last outdoor experience was wet, very, very wet.
I hope it was worth it being wet. And my name,
we had a good time.
Just wanted to thank you all for keeping it short tonight and introducing yourself. My name is Jen, and I live in Rossville, Georgia, which is 1 mile south of Chattanooga. So I'm as far north as you can go. And my one word is mushrooming, but I have to add unsuccessful. So I'm going to say a little bit more because I'm kind of the first speaker for tonight. My background is in art and business and mental health. I've got a very large breadth of experiences, but I'm not particularly good at any one thing. And I did not take up hunting until I was 62, I guess would have been my first hunt. And I found Artemis like 6 months after that first hunt, and I'm so excited that I did. I enjoy volunteering with Artemis as secretary for the Alliance, and really all the alliances is sort of the body that keeps us together and keeps us moving forward in one direction. Bree is our head at the moment. But because I care and value this organization so much and what they have taught me and brought to me, I just believe in giving back to the organizations that I support. So that's why I signed up to be Secretary of the Alliance. So tonight we're going to have some of the ladies of the Alliance teach us about conservation, remind us about the foundations of Artemis Georgia, and share our vision for the future. With that, Lynn is up first, and she will be reminding our new and returning attendees how we started. Lynn?
Yeah, thank you. I may have missed it. Bree, did you get to go and introduce yourself and do your one word?
I'm sorry, she was busy. Forgive me, Bree.
She was looking out for me.
multitasking.
Jen was making sure I got my email out, which I
That's
think
exactly
I did.
what I did. I'll come back.
But Crystal, you stole my word. My last outdoor adventure was wet. And I say that with a huge smile on my face.
All right, very good. So now I will start to give y'all sort of a history of Artemis and where we have come from and where we're trying to go. So I'm one of the founding members, and it was funny, before everybody logged on, I was lamenting to Melissa, who's also a founding member, that I really wish we had taken pictures of our small little group. It was myself, Melissa, Mike Worley, who's the CEO of the Georgia Wildlife Federation, Jennifer Fromm, and Deanna Harris, who's a staff member with Georgia Wildlife Federation. We first met together to sort of launch Artemis Georgia. And I'm not sure of the year, but I was lamenting to her that I wish we had taken a picture. And she was like, we did take a picture. And I was like, oh my gosh, we need to find that picture and sort of archive it as we start to build this organization. So hopefully 50 years from now or whatever, we can look back on the founding of Artemis and see how far we've come. Because honestly, in just the past, 2019 to 2023, we made some huge strides for a new organization, and really excited to share some of that with y'all. So just a little bit of background on myself, just to give you some context. I'm a trained wildlife biologist, and I used to work for a nonprofit called the National Wild Turkey Federation. And one of the things that we were tasked to do was try to expand and build on hunter numbers, which have been declining for many, many years. And the reason that we're doing that will be explained a little bit later in the program. But it's very, very important for supporting wildlife management in the United States. And so I was part of the group that included Georgia Wildlife Federation and some other partners in developing a position, a coordinator position, to do hunter recruitment, retention, and reactivation. We call it R3. Because we discovered that our previous effort to expand hunting numbers was not working very well. We were focusing a lot on children, which wasn't really getting us where we needed to go, because children don't have control of money, they can't drive, if their parents aren't on board, things don't happen. Anyway, I was part of the group that sort of established some R3 efforts in Georgia, which eventually turned into Bree and her position and what she's doing. But as a part of that R3 effort, I really wanted, as a woman in hunting, I really wanted to try to focus some of our efforts on women specifically. Women are a huge group in the shooting sports. And that seemed like a sort of an easy tie to bring women who were interested in shooting and bring them into the hunting sport. So we really were focusing on women. And so Artemis Georgia was born about the same time that the National Wildlife Federation, which is sort of the overarching national group that the Georgia Wildlife Federation is an affiliate of, they were also developing Artemis. But their focus at the time was out west, and it was primarily on advocacy, because out west there's a lot of public lands and not a lot of private lands. So they were focused on influencing management of federal lands. Where we in the east, we have plenty of private land, not a whole lot of public land. So we thought that Artemis Georgia could be more focused on hunter recruitment, retention, and reactivation, not necessarily advocacy, which we still do, but we're more focused on trying to bring more women into the hunting fold. And so Artemis was born, and like I said, Melissa, Tina Johansson, who is also still with the group, Jennifer Fromm, who is still part of the group, but we don't hear from her a whole lot, were able to kind of stand up Artemis Georgia. And of course, Bree Indiana Harris, who wasn't able to join us. They're kind of our staff support, where we are volunteers. I actually work for the U.S. Forest Service, and this is sort of something that I do on the side as a volunteer. Where previously, when I was with the National Wild Turkey Federation, it was part of my job, but now I do it as sort of a volunteer. So we kind of launched everything in roughly 2019, which in hindsight was not the best time because boom, COVID hit. So we were getting together as a group, getting to know each other, trying to figure out what we were doing, what we wanted to do, how we were going to be connected to the National Wildlife Federation's Artemis program. And COVID kind of tapped the brakes on everything. And so we didn't let that stop us, though. We did like what a lot of other people did. We went virtual. We started our Fireside Chats. We started to do a few events with, all the COVID protocols. And so we kept trying to push forward and really try to elevate women's voices in conservation, fostering a community of women who were interested in hunting and maybe didn't have the support or didn't know where to go. And then I guess around in 2021, with Bree's assistance, of course, we started really doing a little bit more of the events, not just online, but in person. And then spring of 2022, we really started to branch out to new partners like Ducks Unlimited, which is a nonprofit that's focused on ducks. And really starting to kind of build a more official structure for the Artemis Alliance. And you'll see us refer a little bit later in the program about, officers, their roles, their terms, bylaws, just getting more structure to what we're doing and be more strategic in what we're trying to do. Has been sort of a recent evolution of Artemis Georgia. And we have several what are considered official ambassadors underneath the National Wildlife Federation. Melissa was our first. And then we currently have Olivia Menard, who unfortunately wasn't able to join us, and then Shelby, who is here. They are sort of the liaison between the Georgia group and the National Artemis group, and helping keeping us, in tune with what they're doing, identify opportunities to partner together and support each other in what we're trying to do. So I appreciate them being ambassadors for us. So anyway, really very recently, we've established our bylaws. We've formalized some procedures for our officers and, what we expect from the volunteers that help us with Artemis. We really started to formalize that this year. And we're looking really now to try to bolster our support network. We started off with just 3 or 4 or 5 people, and we're looking to expand that core Artemis Alliance so we can get more done. Many hands make light work. If you've only got 3 people trying to put on events, go to events, working on emails and calendars and all that stuff, it's overwhelming. But if you have more people that believe in what you're doing, you can be much more efficient and much more effective and expand and reach a broader audience. And that's really where we're trying to go right now, is try to expand what we're doing. So that's kind of a give you a context of where we started and where we are. We're still a young organization, but we are really making a lot of forward progress, and it's thanks to y'all, the volunteers and the people who have, you know, made the time to attend our fireside chats and whatnot. And super big thank you to Bree as a staff person. She keeps us straight, keeps us together. So anyway, that's kind of my background on the history of Artemis. I'll pause right there and see if anybody has any questions or comments or anything I've missed, Melissa, especially since you've been here from the beginning. Please chime in. They say you're supposed to count 7 seconds to give everybody time to process and come up. I kind of lost count about 3 or 4. So I think we're good.
I think you're good, Lynn. Thank you so much for that. Shelby, you are up next to talk to us about conservation relating to hunting, fishing, and shooting sports.
Yeah, so thank you, Lynn, for giving us all the background on how we all got here. I think one of the things that people often think about when they hear Artemis is they assume that we're just about hunting and fishing. But we'll back up a little bit. And like I said, my name is Shelby Register, and I'm up in Northwest Georgia. And I'm also a member of the Artemis Georgia Alliance. And as Lynn had mentioned, I'm also one of the Georgia ambassadors for the National Wildlife Federation's Artemis program as well. My background is a little bit different. I grew up hunting and fishing in upstate New York, and I've hunted and fished a little bit around the United States, professionally or educationally. My background is in fish and wildlife management with legislative policy development, and I currently work as an environmental protection specialist for the Federal Aviation Administration and a volunteer wilderness search and rescue and search and recovery person. But in my capacity with Artemis, I really enjoy introducing women to hunting. I love to fish, but it's not really my wheelhouse. I'll cast a line when I can, but hunting is kind of where I'm most comfortable. I think there's a lot of women who aren't aware of Artemis or what we can offer as far as introducing them to hunting. Jen was just saying that she's an adult onset hunter. There's women out there that haven't felt comfortable, didn't know really where to go to start hunting. So kind of what I tend to help out a little bit with Artemis is kind of mentoring some new hunters, especially adult onset female hunters, to get them a little bit more comfortable. But that being said, one of the things that we would want to remind everyone is the foundations of conservation. Conservation embodies the mission of Artemis sportswomen nationally and here in Georgia, and we really strive to engage and empower women in our conservation efforts. That being said, if we want to get down to the nitty-gritty of conservation, and Bree and I were talking about this earlier, that we could spend hours doing so I will not spend hours tonight talking about conservation. If you were to look up conservation in the dictionary, it would usually say something along the lines of the prevention of the waste of a resource. But really, as it focuses on us, it's, the preservation, protection, and restoration of the natural environment and of wildlife. And I think Theodore Roosevelt said it best with what we try to embody here with Artemis Georgia and nationally is, I recognize the right and the duty of this generation to develop and use the natural resources of our land, but I do not recognize the right to waste them or to rob them by wasteful use the generations that come after us. So we're trying to conserve our natural environment and wildlife, not only for us, but for future generations. And that may seem like such a huge task, but there really is smaller things that we can do to promote conservation. For example, hunting, fishing, and shooting sports is a great way to support conservation, even though people don't usually realize that. Hunting, for example, and fishing has a lot to do with wildlife management, promoting a healthy stock. We see an increase in the human population, which means an increase in roads. There's actually a whole science regarding that. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Metro Atlanta seems to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And where I live in northern Bartow County is considered Metro Atlanta now, which just blows my mind. But imagine all the vehicle collisions that we have with deer, especially during rut. One of the number one supporters for hunters, who lobby for hunters in our government, are actually automobile insurance companies. And conservation has also helped with, historically, we had a lack of laws that pertain to hunting and fishing. A lot of our popular game species that we have here in Georgia, whitetail, bobwhite quail, turkeys, etc., they really struggled because, as we go back to what Roosevelt said about the wasteful use of a resource, there were no laws governing limits or seasons. People were just going out and hunting what they could. And that's kind of how conservation started here in North America. There's two main ways that hunting, shooting sports, fishing, and even boating contributes to conservation monetarily. One of the things that we talk about are federal duck stamps. If you do any type of waterfowl hunting, in the United States, you have to buy a federal duck stamp. And what that means is for every $1 spent for the duck stamps, 98 cents, so 98% goes to purchase waterfowl habitat and conservation easements. And since 1934, I think it's about 6 million acres have been purchased just from purchasing a duck stamp. And so that's kind of a direct correlation of how waterfowl hunters are able to promote conservation just by purchasing their duck stamp. The other main historical act that we have is usually referred to as the Pittman-Robertson Act, but the actual full-fledged name for it is the Federal Aid and Wildlife Restoration Act. And what this does is there's an excise tax on firearms, ammunition, equipment, boating fuel, and some other items. And that tax is then used for an annual dispersion of funds from an excise tax to our state wildlife agencies to support wildlife conservation projects, our hunters education programs that we have, outdoor recreation, and I think as well, since about 1937, there has been about $14 billion, that's billion with a B, that has been sent to state wildlife agencies to help promote conservation. There's other ways that people can get involved. One of the things that I always tell my friends that are hikers is, as Lynn had said, we don't have a vast area of public lands here on the East Coast like we do west of the Mississippi. When you go out west of the Mississippi, there's just hundreds of acres of just wide open area of public land. But something that we do have here, especially in our state, are wildlife management areas. And a lot of people are unaware that not only are wildlife management areas used for obviously wildlife management, but it also has other outdoor recreation uses, paddling, kayaks, canoes, rafting, etc., fishing, as well as hiking. And so I tell all of my hiking friends, because in order to access wildlife management areas, you need to have a hunting license, a fishing license, or an access license. And so I tell them to just go ahead and buy a hunting license because their purchase of a hunting license actually helps our state agencies to get more funding for conservation efforts. And they can use it for hiking on our version of public lands, wildlife management areas. Another way that people can help is by conservation policy advocacy. Recovering America's Wildlife Act, that's our big one. We often refer to it as RAWA, which just reminds me of Wawa, but that's okay because Wawa has a duck on it. It doesn't take long now to send your congressperson an email saying that you support specific things that relate directly to conservation efforts. One of the things that we do with Artemis is we get together and say, hey, I sent this email to my congressperson and here's the response that I got back. And so it's just kind of telling your congressperson that you're in support of this. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate or any form of, historical data. It can literally, it's okay to just send one line saying, hey, my name is so-and-so, I'm in your district and I support XYZ. It doesn't take very long to do that, but there's all different ways that we can support wildlife conservation here with Artemis, and that's definitely one of our strongholds here within the organization as well. So with that being said, I will also pause and ask if anybody has any additional questions, because like I said, I could talk about conservation all night long. No, there's my 7-second pause, Lynn. I'm going to use that from now on when I have my meetings and everything.
Well, I was just going to mention the Georgia Wildlife Federation has something called the Camo Coalition, which is, it's so simple, but it's incredibly effective. I have seen it used like a jackhammer when you're talking about legislation. So the Camo Coalition, if you are interested in policy and what's going on in Georgia as far as conservation is concerned, get on their distribution list, because they send out sort of alerts, and they don't wear you out. You're not going to get an email once every week. You might get 1, 2 a year, 3 if the legislative session is really busy. But they'll let you know about legislation that you might be interested in weighing in on. And it's very, very powerful. Your voice, when it's collected together with other voices through that Camo Coalition, it gives the Georgia Wildlife Federation a real voice with our legislators. So definitely consider signing up for that if you're interested in advocacy for legislation that impacts our natural resources. So look into that.
And if you want an environmental policy legislation nerd and you have a question about how something is written, you're more than welcome to reach out to me as well, because that's kind of what I do. And sometimes the wording is a little bit different or what have you, and can be a bit confusing. But with that, I'm going to pass the torch on to Bree, and she's going to describe a little bit more about our support system, the logistics of Artemis Georgia Alliance, and our vision.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Thank you, Shelby, Lynn, and Jen. I'm already excited about our call so far. And I'm excited to have it being recorded. I think we'll probably end up posting it on our website so that people can better learn who we are, where we come from, and where we strive to be. As everyone has mentioned, my name is Bree. I am the R3 coordinator for the state, which is a wonderful position to have. My background, I went to school for wildlife biology in Colorado, is where I'm originally from. And my passion developed into environmental education, outreach, talking to people about wildlife. I didn't grow up hunting, I didn't grow up fishing, but I loved being outside and I loved food. And I especially loved eating food and protein that I know had a really solid, good life. So because of that, with all of those thoughts and passions in my brain, I found a way to become a hunter. I just so happened to have been brought into a family, this guy and his wife and his kids, and they were like, yeah, Bree, we'll teach you everything. And they really did. And I forever, ever grateful. Because when I was learning how to hunt, there wasn't Artemis. There wasn't Becoming Outdoors women, but I didn't know of it. And so the fact that I can be a part of this program and that this program exists here in Georgia is really spectacular. And it means a lot to me. Some of my best friends I've met through working on this program. Before we begin, I was curious though, I want to do some really quick polls, and I want to see what is everyone's kind of experience and knowledge of Artemis Georgia and conservation before tonight's call. So I'm going to launch this poll, and I'm not an expert at polls, so can someone nod their head so that I know that they got the polls? Cool. And I'm pretty sure this first batch is anonymous, so you can be honest. And I know that we've got a lot of already very familiar women and very experienced ladies on the call this evening. So I'm expecting high results, straight A's. And okay, can you also see the results, or can I only see the results? Only me. Okay, cool. So I think we're waiting. Okay, so before tonight's meeting, we had about 80% of the individuals on this call knew that hunting and angling licenses contributed to wildlife conservation. So that's good that we've taught a couple of people. Same thing with the excise tax. About 20% weren't familiar with the excise tax. And everyone knew that this was a Georgia Wildlife Federation program, which makes me happy to hear because that means I'm doing a good job. Awesome. Okay, let me switch a couple things around. I want to take a step back and remind us who all is contributing to the success of Artemis Georgia. And there are kind of 3 different organizations that really contribute. And so I'm going to share my screen. It's nothing fancy, but I'm a visual person, and so it may be helpful. So the 3 large organizations that contribute to Artemis Georgia, obviously Georgia Wildlife Federation. This is our program, and our mission as a whole is to encourage intelligent management of the life-sustaining resources of the earth. And we really value the interrelationship between humans and wildlife and all of the resources. And without such efforts, there can be little hope for continuing abundant life, including happiness, satisfaction, and peace. And so I think it's a really beautiful mission. National Wildlife Federation contributes to Artemis, and their goal is to unite everyone, ensuring that wildlife thrive in our rapidly changing world. And then Artemis Georgia is also supported by the Georgia R3 initiative. Those are the 5 organizations that fund my position, my time, and contribute funding to Artemis Georgia. And that's going to be Georgia Wildlife Federation, Georgia State, or the state agency, Georgia DNR, National Wild Turkey Federation, Ducks Unlimited, and then also the Georgia chapter of Safari Club International. So you will see those are the sponsors for us. And as we have learned, thanks to Lynn and Shelby, how hunting, angling, and shooting sports are related to conservation. With that background, we can understand how the Georgia R3 initiative's goals align also with Georgia Wildlife Federation's and the National Wildlife Federation's goals. So that's where we're all going. Hopefully we're all pushing in the same direction of conservation. So how does Artemis Georgia try to accomplish all of these goals and satisfy all these missions? And we are led primarily by volunteers. There are a couple of us fortunate ones that get paid to do this, myself and Deanna. But then there are also, Marion is on the call. She works for the state agency. Tina, one of our volunteers, works for the state agency. And so we have officer positions within our Artemis Georgia. And the leaders of our program all belong and are members, sorry, I'm trying to share my screen, of what we call the Alliance. So we meet monthly in addition, obviously in addition to these fireside chats, so that we can make plans and so that we can see where we want to go. What do we want to accomplish? What are our challenges and what are our opportunities? And so we meet monthly, and we've got our chairs. So, or excuse me, we've got our positions. So we've got our chair, we've got a chair-elect, we've got a secretary, a treasurer, and then I've also added here, we hadn't previously filled these or designed these positions, but I think that they're really valuable to kind of spread the load a bit. And so we also have a Fireside Chat manager and an event coordinator, not because they're the only ones that are going to be hosting these things, but because they're the ones that are going to be kind of holding us all accountable so that we can fill our calendars and continue to provide our great opportunities to the rest of our community. So that's kind of how the Alliance is structured. And it also kind of breaks down what opportunities are available for contributions. And we will talk a little bit more about that quite soon. I do want to mention, though, that our program is very data driven. So I'm constantly sending you guys surveys, and I really appreciate your responses to those. They help me draw conclusions that help with grant funding, that help ensure that our sponsoring partners contribute to support our program. So a couple of just really quick, interesting statistics. In 2022, we had over 24 different events, and we had over 345 different touch points. And what I mean by that is those are engagements. Those are people that were impacted by our volunteers, by our staff, by our efforts. And we are still young, 3-4 years old is teeny tiny. So really proud of those numbers. Evaluations from the pre-surveys that everyone fills out. Over 50% of first-time participants registered for a Fireside Chat. That was the first time they engaged. So yeah, we've got a small group today. Sometimes our chats are small groups, but they are valuable at helping everyone feel comfortable, make connections, develop that community. So thank you for joining us this evening and participating in our Fireside Chats. Other interesting fact from our statistic from our pre-event survey, 40% of our members had never hunted with a female prior to participation in our community. And so the fact that we host events to engage with other women and hunt with other women is really creating opportunities that I think we can all be really proud of. So that's kind of all that I wanted to cover. Are there any quick questions for me before we move on? Awesome. Thank you so very much,
7.
Melissa. Oh, a 7.
All right, Melissa, you're up.
I'm up. Okay. So I'm going to talk about commitment to values and the call to action with all of our volunteers. So I am a founding member of Artemis Georgia and a previous NWF ambassador and a previous chair of this group. And, why do we do this? So I can only state why I do this. And there's 3 core reasons why I am involved with Artemis. Number 1 is to learn skills from other women. I do not have an environmental or a degree in biology. I'm kind of the odd man out of our founders. I have a business background and I'm an accountant by nature. So, but I've hunted and fished pretty much my whole life. So that is my passion. But there are many women in this group who are much smarter and much more experienced than I am, and I enjoy gleaning information from them. The second thing is I like to mentor. So as I learn from other people, I also like to pass on my knowledge to those that are just getting involved in this. And I've spent a whole lot of time in the woods. And, they asked me earlier, I guess, before everybody logged on, what was my one word about my most recent experience, or maybe were we all logged on when we did that? Yeah, my word was failure, because I've been in the woods turkey hunting, and well, that about sums it up. And my third reason for doing this is to develop relationships with women that have a common interest as me, but maybe they're women that I would not normally hang out with in my normal walk of life, right? I mean, we all kind of hang out with those that, you know, live in our geographical area or within our age range or whatever. And the thing that I love about Artemis is I have met so many women that we share the same interest, but, you know, they live in a different part of town, or maybe they're a whole lot younger than me because, you know, I'm not going to call our name, our age is Jen, but, you know, maybe, maybe you and I are a few of the older ones here. But it's great to, you know, get that energy and learn things from those that are a lot younger than us. And with that, I'm going to transition right into what is our commitment to inclusion and our commitment to values. And if you don't mind, I'm going to read this because I would completely mess it up if I didn't. So the Artemis community of staff, leaders, ambassadors, participants, and supporters is an equitable and inclusive community that honors, respects, and uplifts women and non-binary people of all races, ethnicities, orientations, experiences, cultures, beliefs, and backgrounds. We humbly and diligently strive for equity and inclusivity with our actions and our words, in collaboration with the Artemis community and our partners in the national hunting and fishing conservation community. We welcome feedback where we might fall short in pursuit of this intention. And I can say 100% that's true. I mean, I have never been involved with a group that is more inclusive than we are. And we want everybody in this group because everybody brings something different to the table, and it you know, a rising tide raises all ships, right? And we really want as many different people in this organization to learn from and share their own experiences with each one of us. And with that, I'm going to lead into, you know, like any good organization, if you're not here, you're going to get picked on, right? So Bethany could not be with us tonight. And for that reason, we are going to pick on her and show 2 videos of her just to kind of testify to what I'm talking about in terms of what this group means to each one of us. So roll that beautiful beam footage. Great.
Hi, my name is Bethany, and I am very new to Artemis and to the outdoor sportsmanship of it all myself. I do consider myself outdoorsy as far as I have a heavy background in backpacking and I grew up scouting, but I never went on hunting trips and fishing trips and that kind of thing when I was smaller. So I'm just now learning. I'm really excited about finding the Artemis organization because when I was looking for maybe someone to teach me, help mentor me along, tell me where do I start in this whole big world out there. It's a little intimidating when you're looking around, you see so many of these spaces are dominated by men, and I was looking for someone who might look a little more like me, something that's my preference. But so far, I've been really thrilled with what I see Artemis doing for women. I attended one of their Fireside Chats recently, and I really enjoyed getting to know all the women there. And I'm excited to be on my first trip in person out here in these beautiful woods.
And that is Bethany just talking about one of her first experiences in the woods. And the second video is at a hunt that many of us on this call attended from a very generous landowner in South Georgia. And roll that one, if you wouldn't mind, Bree.
Okay, really quick, could you guys hear any audio at all?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Okay, because that one had the subtitles, but this one doesn't. So I'm gonna keep trying to fiddle with it. So if you can't hear it, let me know and I'll summarize it. Did I forget to share my screen?
Yes. And I may have that video on my phone where I can get good sound with it if we need it.
Could you hear it though?
No, we could not hear it.
I
Okay.
could hear the last one perfectly.
Did you share your screen? Because I don't have anything but our pictures up.
Mm-mm.
I have it. Is it the one of Bethany at the hunt?
Yeah, from 2022. I should be-
2021. Oh, I'm sorry. I have her from 2021, not from 2022.
Yeah, I want to do the 2022 one. It's right here, guys. Just bear with me. I appreciate your patience.
Oh, something's happening.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen, right? But all you see is my sunflower.
Yes.
And I just need to make it smaller.
Hi, I'm
In essence, Bethany she attended a scouting trip with us in 2021 that summer, and it was kind of a risky thing for her because she grew up or lives in the middle of Atlanta, and you know the woods we're a different type of people, the country you could say, but she went for it and she dove in headfirst, engaged in our Columbus hunt that fall, and then got her first deer. And then over the following year, she read all of her books because she's a librarian, and she really, really got excited. And she participated again at the Columbus hunt in 2022. She did not harvest, but she had a great time. And with that passion and that dedication, she went out on her own, and she did have her harvest this past fall. So she is a member of the Alliance, and not an expert, but brings really valuable perspectives to our group of leaders, and helps us make sure that we are actually providing opportunities that are relevant to those that are new to the activity. So the point is everyone has something to bring to the table, and that's kind of Bethany's story.
Very good. Thank you. And, I'm just going to tattle on Bethany another. Bethany and Krista came up to my farm, and we were going to do squirrel hunting, but really wasn't that active. Anyway, I will say it, once we got back from our scouting and looking at deer sign and stuff, we saw a squirrel, and they can shoot a squirrel from my front porch. So, we're open to all sorts of adventures here at Artemis. And that was a good time. But Artemis Georgia, we make a difference in so many women's lives, and the volunteer base that we currently have can't do it all. So as Bree showed us, we have some openings. And in addition to that, there's certainly openings, as general members of the Alliance, or if you have a special skill or talent, we are looking for, I know someone that has a talent in tanning, or a talent, we need more women, I think, that have a kind of a passion for fishing. A lot of us do fishing, but I guess we've really been more of a hunting based in terms of our events and everything. So we are looking for as many women as possible to step up to the plate and volunteer and make this community the best that it can be. And with that, Bree is going to have a webinar on April the 25th. Let's AG like OGs. And we hope that everyone can join for that. And if there's any, if any of you would like to step up to any of those existing openings, please let Bree know. And with that, I'm going to open that up to my 7 seconds of questions.
Well, if I could just follow up really quickly, as we talked about earlier, we're looking to bolster our numbers. So many hands make light work. But I will say that even though we have official officer positions now, don't be intimidated by those. We're still very informal. We support each other. We are still sort of forming our structure. And, you know, if somebody's willing to take on a secretary position or whatever, we'll make it work for you. Because we just need some folks to help us out. And we will make adjustments as needed to help us grow this organization. So don't feel like this would be some overwhelming, you know, lots of time. No, we just need what you can give us, and we'll take what you can give us, because that's what volunteerism is. We all have different skills, and that's why we want to broaden and diversify our group, because we know by doing that we will be stronger as a whole. So I would say, if you're even remotely interested in joining in a more quote unquote formal fashion, please reach out to any of us that have been doing this for a long time, and we can give you the lowdown on how all this works. So please feel free to reach out to myself, Melissa, to Bree. Jen's been doing a bunch of stuff. Shelby's been doing a bunch of stuff. Nina's been around for a long time, I know, as a participant. So let us know if you're even remotely interested. Let's just talk through it. If you're not ready right now, that's fine. Maybe next year. We want to start building a bench, if you will, to help us expand our organization. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thanks, Lynn. Bree, it looks like you're going to do another poll.
You know, I think we're getting a little bit closer to that 8 p.m. mark. So I think let's go ahead, if you want to kind of bring us home and talk about our upcoming events.
Yep.
And we'll wrap things up so people can get on their way.
All right. Coming up in May, we have a turkey hunt at Melissa's, May 6th and 7th. That's Chickamauga, so the north side of the state. The day you arrive, you'll be patterning your shotguns. There'll be an evening hunt, a morning hunt, and housing and food and support is included. Opportunities will be for 3 new hunters and 2 coaches. Then May 10th, there is a fireside chat. This is going to be called Ask the Game Warden. I found a female game warden. Her name is Ann Wiley. She has been a game warden, I think she told me, over 20 years. So she's got a lot of experiences. It should be a lot of fun. I'm putting into the chat right now my email address and my telephone number. So she would like to have your questions in advance so that she makes sure that she covers everything that we're interested in. So if you've ever wondered what a game warden does, why she does it, how she does it, this is your opportunity to ask one live and in person. So pass this out to other people that you might think have questions for a game warden, because I don't see them in the woods. I see the working guys, but I don't see the game wardens very often. So this will be a really fun.
They're sneaking around. They're
sneaking around. That's right. She's out working tonight. Okay, then the final event is a volunteer appreciation camping trip to the Alcovy Conservation Center in Covington, Georgia, to see, apparently this is the height of firefly activity. So it will be a fun time watching the fireflies. And Bree, did you need to add anything about that?
I just want to say this volunteer appreciation trip, I'm hosting it for members of Artemis Georgia that are interested in contributing, whatever capacity that might be. And so for previous contributors, Lynn, Melissa, Jen, Shelby, Marion, everyone on this call, and future contributors. I know that there are 1 or 2 ladies on this call that have expressed interest in volunteering with Artemis more. And this is an opportunity for us to express our gratitude to you by hosting you at Georgia Wildlife Federation's headquarters. The Firefly Show is like nothing you've ever seen before. You can Google it, and videos, you can't really capture them by videos, but you can see some really cool photos. And so that'll be a really fun time. There'll be food. There'll be hay covered wagon? What's the phrase? Straw?
Hay ride.
Hay ride. There'll be a hay ride. And depending on the weather, we can have campfire, we can sleep in tents, we can sleep in cabins. Anyways, I would really love to get everyone together and celebrate the success that we've had so far, and dream for the success that we'll have in the future.
And I don't know if I gave the date. That's May 27th. So we're right at 8 o'clock. Does anybody have any questions for any of our panelists tonight, or any about the upcoming events?
Be there, be square at the turkey hunt, May 6th and 7th. That's all I'm saying. It's a good time.
Well, and I quickly just wanted to mention, if y'all have any ideas on things that you're interested in, material wise for Fireside Chats, let us know. What do you want to know? What do you want to hear about? You know, what are you interested in that maybe we haven't covered, or maybe we need to cover again? Let us know.
And remember to check the chat out on the side. You should have a button on the bottom where you can hit chat, and you'll be able to see all the information that's been provided there. No questions? Okay, I think we're good. Well, thank you all again for coming and participating. And Bree, we're going to get this up onto the Facebook page shortly, or sometime tomorrow. So pass it out to your friends. Thank you all for coming tonight.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
See ya.
Good night.